when you're going through a difficult time, a challenge in your life, it's
Mm.
always an opportunity for you to reveal a part of yourself that you haven't yet explored. And often it's a stronger, wiser, more resilient part of yourself. So
Mm.
when I was thinking about emotional intelligence as a concept, I understand that it's not like a Western concept. And do what you can with what you have. You're essentially creating your own prison. So nobody needs to be your enemy. I struggled with deep self-esteem issues. I think I definitely had a very interesting childhood, but I also always told myself that whenever I move back to Guinea, I want to contribute to, Guinea's development and, people's well-being overall. I don't just want to come and find a job and just be comfortable in my position, because obviously, as someone who grew up in the West and that had access to a certain level of education and, experiences and things of that sort. I'm very aware of that privilege. So I did a lot of back and forth between Guinea and Canada. And so, the expat feeling where you never feel quite at home in one place was a feeling that I had for a long time.
Yacin's journey is not just professional, it's deeply personal, cultural, and collective. So let's dive in. Welcome to Development One Topic at a Time, the podcast where we explore how to make the world a better place, one step at a time or one topic at a time. I am your host, Zenab Barry, and today's episode is deeply personal, meaningful, and powerful. My guest today is Yacine Diallo, founder of Afiyah EQ, emotional intelligence facilitator, community development advocate, and managing director of the La Villa des Arts GN, so Guinea. What makes this conversation special is that Yasin and I go way back. We played together as children right next door to one of my maternal uncle's homes. Life then took us on different paths. Hers to Canada, as her father became the Guinean ambassador to Canada, and mine to the UK until we reunited in Guinea in August 2025. And
Yeah.
it's great because that reunion led to something beautiful, a deep reconnection and the co-creation of a highly impactful emotional well-being and mental health workshop in Conakry, alongside incredible partners and facilitators that I would also like to thank again for everything that they've done. In today's episode, we'll explore Yacine's journey from Guinea to Canada and back, what led her to create Afiyah EQ, why emotional intelligence rooted in African wisdom, because that's the key for her,
Mhm.
is essential to conscious growth, and what this means for community development in Guinea and beyond. This conversation is, as you've guessed it, perhaps about emotions, culture, healing, and development, and why some, or none of these can exist in isolation. Yasin's journey is not just professional, it's deeply personal, cultural, and collective. So let's dive in. Yasin, very
Yes,
welcome to
Zainab.
you again.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here and to have this conversation with you.
Me too. It's always good to see you.
Yeah.
How was it for you when we met again in Guinea and we just went back through those memories that
hmm
are fading?
Yeah, I mean, it was a surprise, definitely unexpected, but a very pleasant surprise. And especially since we've, each gone through our personal journeys. I mean, we met up like what, 20 years ago, 20 years later.
Yeah.
And we found out that we have so much in common, such as, emotional intelligence and just being advocates about like wellness and community development. So it was a very, very pleasant surprise to reconnect later and to see how like-minded we are.
I
Yeah,
know. Thank you so much. I know that's how I feel as well. Because, when I saw you and as we, we started talking, then we had lunch, then, started diving straight into planning events. Um,
yeah,
I felt also that yeah, there's so much that we still have in common, and we are so relatable, and honestly, it's like
mm,
just click, and it's great. Um,
yeah,
yeah, it's beautiful to have you back. And so Yasin, emotional intelligence existed well before it was named, right?
yeah,
But
totally.
yeah, but before we get to that, maybe
Mm,
let's talk about your journey, your roots. Uh,
hmm
Also, a little bit about migration and when you went back. So from when you left Guinea to, going to Canada, and then anywhere
mm,
else that you've been, and then when you return. So, growing up in Guinea and early influences, how do
hmm
you recall that chapter of your life, please?
Yeah, so I think I definitely had a very interesting childhood and journey overall. So I was born and raised in Guinea until 6 years old. And then we moved to Canada. And then I spent some years there until like my early teens. I was 13. Then we came back here. And then I went back at 18. So I did a lot of back and forth between Guinea and Canada. And so, the expat feeling where you never feel quite at home in one place was a feeling that I had for a long time. I didn't feel completely integrated in the culture and society in Canada. But at the same time, I didn't completely relate to everything in Guinea, even though I'm, Guinean. So that was always like a struggle identity wise for me emotionally. And when I was a teenager, specifically, I would say between the ages of like maybe 11, 12, until I would say 18. So specifically when I was between the ages of, I would say 12 to 18, and even going into my 20s, I struggled with deep self-esteem issues where I was really questioning my worth. And I went through a lot of emotional angst. Like inside of me, I would describe it as being very chaotic. I would doubt myself in a lot of ways, even though I really did acknowledge, my qualities and my strengths. But at the same time, I think I didn't grasp my true value as a person. So I was constantly kind of comparing myself to others, putting myself down for certain things, and just doubting overall my value as a person. And as you can imagine, that is one of the most dangerous things you can do as a person, because you're essentially creating your own prison. So nobody needs to be your enemy, quote unquote. You become your own enemy. And that's really one of the worst feelings, right? And so going through that struggle as a teen, and then even well into my early 20s, um, I became, I think, naturally very interested in human psychology, understanding, behaviors and why we think the way we do, and also into anything that was, spiritually related, understanding life and meaning, of course, religion, philosophy, like all those things.
Mhm.
I was very, very much into. And so I spent a lot of time reading about those things, researching those things, and eventually it led me to emotional intelligence. So that's essentially, I would say, my journey. So it's very, very personal, and then it became, I guess, more of a community-centered collective journey eventually.
Amazing. That's a
Mm,
beautiful journey, isn't it? Because it takes you from, not knowing fully about, the reasons why you feel the way that you feel, and to actually undertaking some research and, understanding that there are those reasons that are, that are there that you just need to look into. And then you went from
mm,
there to actually
mm.
creating something, an organization with tools to help other people to
Yeah.
learn about their own journeys and also, explore the world with more emotional intelligence. Um,
Hmm.
and I know how you feel because, as a migrant as well, that the feeling of not fully belonging is very
Yeah.
difficult, right?
Hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, because I remember, we had that conversation, myself and someone else, recently when I went to Guinea, and the person said that the saddest thing is that when you come here, people ask you, when are you leaving? As if
Mm,
as if that's the expected thing, as if you don't
yeah.
belong here. And whereas when you go to where you're living at the moment, they ask you, where are you from? So,
Yeah.
these two sentences can actually break you or make you, depending on how you look at the perspectives and, how you acknowledge them and work with them, right?
Mm. Yeah, that's very true. Very true. And it's like a constant, it's like you're always trying to find yourself between those two identities. But I finally realized that you create your home in a sense, and you're a mix of all those places, all those experiences, that have shaped you, and you're the one who essentially defines, what's your home.
Exactly. And
Mm,
that's self-empowering. So you move from the self-destructive phase to actually realizing that you can empower yourself with what you have, and
mm,
that home is not necessarily a fixed place. It's about how you feel in your heart. It's about the people around you, those who make
mhm,
you, happy, or give you constructive feedback for you to move forward.
mhm.
Yeah, we each have our own experiences, and that's a beautiful thing to realize. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So what was it for you, Yasin, moving to Canada as a diplomat's daughter, because, your father was the ambassador,
Mhm.
especially in terms of, again, as you mentioned, identity, belonging, and then those emotional
Mm,
transitions now with that title.
mhm, mhm. How was it moving? Well, we moved first when I was 6 years old. So I have a very, I guess, vague memory of how I felt specifically at that time. I know that there was a lot of excitement because, it was new, it was Canada. And, one thing that I'm thankful for is that I moved with my family, with my father, my mother, and my sisters. So I think that helped me keep a certain sense of, I guess, just balance within myself as a young as a kid, since I was six, as a child. So that helped, but it was definitely a lot of adjustment. I remember just feeling essentially out of place, trying to understand this new environment that I was in. So I know that sometimes I wonder, did that trigger like self-esteem issues that I had, or was it something that was already within me when I was younger? And I think there's a mix of things. I'm very much into psychology, and I've studied attachment styles. And I do believe that your early attachment style to your main parental figure does define certain things about how you end up being, psychologically and behavior wise. So I think there was part of my childhood that affected that, but then also moving places like that, which is like it's a major change for a 6 year old child,
Yeah.
did also probably trigger certain things like that. Yeah. I can't remember like all the experiences that I went through in school. I don't think there was anything like traumatic specifically, but there was just a lot of adjustments, a lot of questioning, a lot of like feeling confused, and then finally, slowly, just finding my place, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, because as you said, as children, we don't always remember everything, right?
Mm,
Yeah, so some of those things are already inbuilt in us, and others are, part of those everyday experiences that perhaps we encounter. Some are positive, others are negative, but as kids, we don't just sit down and say, okay, let me work on this specific one. I need to solve it
yeah.
before I move forward. No, to just keep
Yeah.
adding.
No.
And they
Mm-hmm.
become, part of your personality.
Mm,
So it's beautiful that as an adult now, you get the time to sit down and self-reflect. And
mm,
it's a beautiful, job to be doing. I mean, I know with Zenab Barry Consulting, there's also a high degree of emotional intelligence there, which takes
mm.
me back to, when we were playing, and and I guess there's a lot of
Yes.
those, early upbringing, strategies or the community around us, and then the different,
Mm,
avenues that we've taken. But it's so beautiful to look at you now, and I know you talk a lot about those attachment styles, and I know
mm,
that the workshop that we undertook last time, people really appreciated learning more about those styles. So thank you very
mm.
much. Um,
Yeah.
you, yeah. So you were an adult, Yasin. You went to
Yes.
Canada, and then you came back. Then you went back again. But then,
Mm,
what
mm.
made you come back to Guinea? What made you decide as an adult, Yasin, that Guinea is the place for me?
Yeah. There was a mix of things there, were, I think circumstances made it so that I came back at the time that I came back. But I had been thinking for years before that that I wanted to move back to Guinea. I just wasn't sure exactly when or, how. But I also always told myself that whenever I move back to Guinea, I want to contribute to, Guinea's development and, people's well-being overall. I don't just want to come and find a job and just be comfortable in my position, because obviously, as someone who grew up in the West and that had access to, a certain level of education and, experiences and things of that sort, I'm very aware of that privilege. And so I know when I come back, I might have certain opportunities based on that. But I really didn't want to just find I guess, a corporate position. I'm not a corporate person at all when it comes to my personality as well. Like it really doesn't fit. So I really didn't want to do that. And I ended up divorcing actually about, I would say like I was in the process of separation and divorce within like the year that I moved back to Guinea. And so at that point, I had a choice. I was like, do I stay in France where I was living with my husband, or do I go back to Canada, or do I go to Guinea? And I had my child that was he was a baby. He wasn't even 1 year old at that point. So naturally, I just felt like I needed to come back to Guinea. I felt like I needed to be somewhere where I'm near my mom, I'm near my mother, I'm just surrounded by community. And so I made that decision consciously, but also through the circumstances. And I'm very, very happy that it happened that way because it was exactly what I needed. I didn't need to be isolated. If I had went back to Canada, even though I have my sisters there, I would have been in my own apartment with my child, and I think that would have been the worst case scenario. So I'm very, very glad I came back to Guinea, and I was just within this environment where people, even without thinking about it too much, they surround you like in every way possible, even if you don't want to be surrounded.
Exactly.
They're always there.
Yeah.
They're always there. And for that time, I needed that. And I think it really helped me emotionally go through that, that difficult period of time and just build the resilience and also have like the space to actually create Afiyah EQ and, develop that. So yeah, that's how I moved back to Guinea.
Amazing. Welcome back home. Say some
Yeah.
those kilometers away from you, but
Well, we need to bring you back as well, so we're
indeed,
working on that.
indeed. Yeah, I mean it's such a beautiful journey again, because uh, sometimes when you have challenges and you look at them as something that's, things that are obscure, things that will change your life in a dramatic way, um,
Mhm,
don't, because as you've shared with your example, is that it's those experiences actually, those are the
mhm,
ones that can help you go forward. Challenges are constructive if you look at them in that way. Challenges can
mhm,
empower you to make decisions that can be life-changing. And
yeah.
and when we are at crossroads and you have so many options to think about, but then there's that vulnerability inside of you that is
Mhm,
pulling you towards just, wanting you to stay in that place that you feel that is more comfortable.
mhm,
Whereas there's a other part of you that says, wait a minute, listen, maybe things will not be that bad if you could just be courageous enough to, make a step
mhm,
and just choose a direction that you have not explored before, or a direction that you feel is a little bit more challenging than where you are, but
mhm,
will be more rewarding. So yeah, courage and vulnerability, they go hand in hand. So I'm glad
yeah.
you took that step. And did you want to add to that? Because it looks like you do want to add to that.
Yes. Yes, no, I wanted to say that when you're going through a difficult time, a challenge in your life, it's
Mm,
always an opportunity for you to reveal a part of yourself that you haven't yet explored. And often it's a stronger, wiser, more resilient part of yourself. So I think you always have to take on the challenge. Like when you have a difficulty in front of you, don't I guess don't stay stuck on the difficulty itself. Think about what can unfold from it, and especially how you can grow from it. And I think it's one of the most beautiful things that can happen to you. Sometimes, like some of the worst things end up being the most beautiful things that can happen to you.
what a beautiful sentence.
Mm.
Indeed, because
Yeah.
it's all in your mind, right? We don't know the future. It's all in your
Mm.
mind.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I guess the other word that comes along with that concept is hope. So remaining hopeful is such a
Absolutely.
good thing to have in life, because what can we do without hope, right?
Yeah.
You need
Mm.
hope to get up every day and say, I have something to do. Even if you are tired, even if you're going through mental health issues, even if
Hmm.
you feel like the world is crumbling, that just having a hope that at least I can get up and, look at the road, or at least I can get up and drink some water
Hmm.
and just
Yeah,
hoping that,
gratitude for
yeah,
what you can do, what you have.
yeah,
Yes, for sure.
yeah. And hoping that even if you have a mountain of problems, that at least you will solve one of them. You know,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
that's a beautiful outlook on life. And I think that's how you actually go through your own life. Because I've known
Yeah,
you. Yeah. Um,
taking it day by day.
exactly, day by day, one step at a time, which is also
Mhm.
bringing us back to the title of this podcast.
Yes.
Yes, one topic at a time. We can change the word, but we don't have to do it all at once. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, so when it comes to emotional intelligence, we know that healing, culture and development are not separate, right?
Mhm.
So Yasin, I really want to find out more about the birth of Afia EQ and how you turned purpose into practice, right? So, what are those inner or external moments that led you to Afia EQ, please?
Yeah, for sure. I think it was definitely a progressive thing. Like as I said, since I've always been interested in anything human related, like understanding human psychology, behaviors, spirituality, all those things, I've always kind of they've always surrounded me, one way or another. And so I think it started since then, really, like since I've been a young teen and then going through my different life experiences. And then the idea itself blossomed probably about 4 years ago, like 3, 4 years ago. And then it was much more concrete within the last 2 years, of course, because that's when I created Afiyah EQ and started giving workshops. So I would say the internal and external shifts that happened were moments when I sat down with myself and I really faced my challenges, my difficulties emotionally. And instead of avoiding my emotions, instead of distracting myself, instead of doing anything other than really sitting with the emotion, I finally sat down with the emotion, accepted that, this is how I'm feeling, accepted the heaviness of it, the difficulty of it, but I didn't allow myself to ignore it. So really, there were several moments throughout my life where things would happen. I would go through, the inner journey of understanding what happened and analyzing it very intellectually, but it wouldn't help me emotionally. And when I finally would take the time to actually sit with the emotion and accept and be like, okay, this feels devastating, this feels hurtful, um, this feels shameful, this feels, very sad, whatever emotion I was feeling, and actually accepting the emotion, those are the times where there was a shift in me. And afterwards, I could actually move on, quote unquote, actually build from there. So that was, going through different like friendship breakups
Yeah, part of life.
through exactly, like family issues, relationship issues, difficulty, with schooling, when I started working, and of course with my marriage and the separation and the divorce. So there was like different shifts with, the different things that happened throughout my life.
Thank you, Yacine. And
Mhm.
again, the same theme. There are always catalysts that take you from one point to the other. And
Mhm.
it's about embracing that journey going forward.
Yeah.
Now, a very curious question. Of all the names that you could have chosen, why Afia, please? Afia EQ.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm Muslim, as you know, Zina,
Yeah.
just like you. And Afia is a term in Islam that means wellness, but beyond the typical wellness that we understand. So in Pular, in our native language, they like to, like, whenever you're sick, you're ill or something like that, they like to wish you um, you know, to get better by using the word afia.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I would hear that and I just got curious about the word and what it meant. And I did like some research on it. And then I found out that it actually meant well-being, wellness, but really in a very holistic way.
Mhm.
So when the person is wishing you to get better by using that word, whether they realize or not, they're not just wishing you to get better physically or mentally. They're wishing you to be better in every way possible, like psychologically, spiritually, just emotionally, in every way possible. And I thought that was very, very beautiful. And when I think of my vision for Afia EQ, that's really what I'm aiming for. I'm of course using emotional intelligence as the main tool, but I'm aiming for people to attain a certain level of wellness that is just very holistic, because I think those all are related. Like you can't just be well physically without taking care of your emotional wellness or mental wellness. I feel like all those things are connected together, and I think it's a beautiful thing. It's what makes us human.
Indeed, indeed. Yeah, I mean, all those elements are interconnected and And now I understand you much, much better because I've seen some of your social media posts, and I think there's one theme that runs through all of them. It's like you want people to focus more on the depth than just the surface, because you've been,
Hmm.
talking about that a lot, and that explains, Afia then, because
Yeah.
as you said in Pula, they say you're la bayda Afia, you're la baydu Afia. So may Allah
Mhm.
increase your deep wellness, as you said now,
Yeah.
wellness and well-being. So, um, and and that really englobes everything that you're trying to do.
Hmm.
And again, it's a beautiful thing. You'll hear me say that a lot today because I think everything that you do is beautiful.
Thank
There are
you.
so many synonyms there, but that's the word that I'll be using for you all the time today. Um,
Thank you.
you're welcome. So, Yasin, in terms of your approach, how do you think that, practically, how does African wisdom really influence that approach, apart from the
Yeah.
sentence in Pula?
Hmm.
Mm,
Yeah. I'm, we're Guineans, so and we're African. So
mm,
what I was thinking about emotional intelligence as a concept, I understand that it's not like a Western concept. It's a human concept, right? We named it emotional intelligence, but essentially, being conscious of your emotions, knowing how to regulate them, understanding how to manage them, like that's just a human necessity.
indeed.
That doesn't have to do with just, being from the West or any country in particular. So I was thinking about, okay, I'm, African, I'm Guinean. What exists in my culture that can allow me to develop emotional intelligence? And especially since I wanted to, apply it here in Guinea, I was thinking about what can resonate with people because I don't want to bring in a concept that seemingly is from the West and tell people, okay, just take this concept, which was created and developed elsewhere, and apply it to you. I know we have different realities, we're different societies, we have a different way of functioning, of thinking, we have different needs, and that needs to be taken in consideration. So I was like, let's look at our cultures here and what exists within our cultures that can help us develop emotional intelligence. And I realized through that thought process and research that we actually have a lot of things that were in place traditionally, such as, the is it rites of initiation? Like basically when you would go through moving from teenage year to adult year, there was a
Mhm.
whole process that you would go through as a man and as a woman that we've now completely let go of.
Yeah,
But that was in place.
yeah.
There was also, I always forget the term in English, when we would sit around the fire, cercle de palabre in French. Do you remember in English what it's called? I always forget. But
Uh,
traditionally,
yeah.
in the
I think they use
villages,
like behind the fireplace. I don't know, but because there's no tree, right? Like I think as
yeah,
you said, everything is about context, right?
exactly.
Because Tulaba Palab, ça c'est un truc, that's something that's African, right? That's
Hmm. Hmm.
and here they have their own culture as well, and I guess it was
Yes,
the
yes, their
fireplace.
own
That's
traditions.
yeah, to keep warm and
Yeah.
everything. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So there was a lot of traditions like that that we've kind of forsaken that actually helped us as a community. They helped us gather and connect and essentially develop emotional intelligence because those things they helped us become more aware either of ourselves or of others, of how to be in community, how to connect with one another. And emotional intelligence really does serve that purpose of helping us not only connect with ourselves individually, but helping us connect with others as well. So I was like, why not, bring in those things and really integrate them and yeah, find ways that we can inspire ourselves, like even if we don't start reapplying those things today, because obviously we're in a different time. We've mixed with a lot of things at this point, so I think it would be a little bit difficult to just reapply those traditions as they were, but we can inspire ourselves from those things and kind of bring them back to today's society. So that's what I try to mix, just African wisdom, African traditions, certain African traditions with emotional intelligence.
Wow, this is very laudable, very, very plausible,
Mm,
reflection that led you to those positive outcomes that we all, want to undertake. And I think what I saw there again is all about, context and relevance. Because as
mhm.
you said, we can't just take concepts that have been developed elsewhere and just apply them because unfortunately sometimes that's just what happens in Africa. You just, cut and paste and it doesn't work.
Yeah, yeah,
No.
absolutely.
Again,
Doesn't take in consideration the realities here.
exactly. Especially in the development world, there's a lot that needs to change. And I like the idea there that, everything that happens in the West doesn't necessarily apply to what's happening in Africa. Because in my
Mm-hmm.
book, Lessons from Depression, I talk about that as well. That, you
Yeah.
said that emotional intelligence is not just Western, it applies to everyone. And that's what I
Mm-hmm.
said in regards to, mental health. It's um, no culture just holds that monopoly. It's everywhere. Every
Mm-hmm.
human
Mm-hmm.
being, even animals, I think, they do have, their own mental health issues to work on or to be nurtured, to be considered. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, but I guess going back to your point about l'arbre palab in French there, I guess there
Yeah.
are some African, countries obviously who, have been colonized by the British, where perhaps, English is the language, but I think some of them do use, under the baobab tree or, the council
Yes,
of
there you go.
elders or,
Mm-hmm.
concepts like that. But I think that's, purely African in my knowledge, which is not big enough.
Yeah.
But yes, let's see. Um, now, I mean, I know that you did describe how you created Afia EQ, but then
Mm,
this question would be a little bit similar to the previous one in terms of, Afia EQ. But
mm,
how did you go, practically? How did you just make that jump? Now you've made that
mhm.
self-reflection and everything. So how did you jump into the world of emotional intelligence practice, please?
Yes. So personally, I went through first a coaching session. Actually, like the year 20, was it 2022? I started, I've always been interested in like possibly going to therapy,
Hmm.
but I have a reservation as well about it. So I was a little bit skeptical, but I was like, you know what, I'll try it. So I remember that year I consulted like with like three therapists. I experimented with different types of therapy. One of them was like transgenerational therapy, where we were essentially talking about, what possibly happened throughout my generations in my family, and that's affecting me now. Anyway, so I was like on a very experimental journey that year. And I was going also through like these self-coaching programs online.
Yeah.
And at some point, I was already aware of emotional intelligence, but at some point it just kind of clicked that I should be creating something regarding that, and that would be useful here in Guinea. And the reason why I say it's useful in Guinea is not because only Guinean need it, sorry, but it's because this is where I'm from. And I actively wanted to contribute to bettering the society here one way or another. So I was always thinking about a project that I can develop to apply in Guinea. And I wanted it to be a project that was personal to me, because that's where I can find, I guess, a certain level of how would you say, not expertise necessarily, but that's where I can really apply myself. Um, and so when I was thinking about that and going through that experimental journey, I had the idea of creating an emotional intelligence, a project around emotional intelligence. And the way that it actually, I guess, started is really back in I guess 2025 really, because in 2024 I did go through starting it by offering workshops to schools. Initially, I was like, let me go see some schools because I really want to work with children. I want to instill emotional intelligence with early minds. I think it's important to start early. So that was my
Yeah.
first goal. So I did approach some schools and I did some workshops for two different schools throughout 2024 and early 2025. And then at some point I was like, you know what, I just want to create like a general workshop for anyone who wants to come and do it. And I just kind of decided, and from the moment that I decided, I started, researching and just putting it together. And I think that's like one of my big lessons is that the moment that you decide that you want to do something and look at the means and the resources that you have there to start with, things just kind of unfold. They really do unfold. And it's not
Yeah.
about, things being magical. Obviously, all things happen, because of Allah.
Yeah.
But, as we say, tie your camel and, Allah will guide you
That's
as
it.
well.
Yeah.
So I feel like taking those steps was me tying my camel and really being realistic. Like instead of being like, I want to create this big event where I'm going to invite like 50 people or 100 people. I want it to be a big venue. I was like, you know what? I don't have the means for that right now. What can I do right now with the means that I have? And I created like a small workshop. There was about 15 people who ended up coming, and it was great. It was great. I really loved giving that workshop. It was the first official like Afiyah EQ general workshop on emotional intelligence. And that's really how it happened. There was nothing really complicated or too elaborate about it. I just decided and I looked at the resources that I had and I went step by step on how to create the event. Like I researched a venue, I found a venue, and then yeah, I looked at different people that could help me, in terms of like financial resources or other types of resources. And I just made do with what I had. And then I made it happen.
Amazing. And I like that framework. It's as simple as it should be, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you go from the idea, you've got that passion there. You turn the
Yeah.
passion into a structured idea. You go out and you add value to society because it's all about giving back. And
Mm-hmm.
then, based on your performance, not just performance really, because based on it's not about, it's about, what you've done, because sometimes
Yeah.
the word performance can be viewed in different lenses.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so about, the value that you've added and how other people feel about it and how much you are dedicated as well, the level of dedication that you have, and to what
Mm-hmm.
extent your passion is still fueled by, everything that you're doing, or the passion is fueling everything that you're doing. And then
Yeah.
from there you get visibility, you don't give up, and perhaps the
Yeah.
resources grow or they dwindle, but the passion and the dedication is still there. I know,
Yes.
right? Because it just happened at the
It
beginning, and
dwindle.
then
Yeah, but you keep pushing because you're passionate
exactly,
and you believe. Like when you
exactly,
believe in something deep in your heart, you know that this is something that will bring good, that will bring value, as you said, and that you are the one that can do it. Not because you are necessarily the best or an expert in it, but you have it in your heart.
yeah,
Then you're gonna push through. You're gonna push through, and the resources, any sort of resources that you need, they will come to you. The
yeah.
opportunities will really come to you, and that's what happened for me, honestly. Yeah.
That's great because that's
Mm-hmm.
what you said. It's about, as Muslims, we believe that it's tie your camel first. So you don't just sit down, as you said,
Mm-hmm.
and just, have that beautiful idea in your head and don't do anything. Many people have
Exactly.
ideas, but it's
Yeah.
about executing them. It's about going up there and actually practically trying to implement something with that
Mm-hmm.
belief that Allah will help you. Eventually, things will
Absolutely.
change. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
and especially I really want people to understand, do what you can with what you have. Because sometimes you have an idea and you want it to be maybe more grandiose
yeah,
than what you can achieve at this moment, but it's fine to do what you can with what you have. Like, don't get stuck. Because I was the person for a long time to be like, yeah, but if I can't do it exactly like this, then I'm not gonna do it. Or I start something and then I just stop. I was like the starter, but never like I was the person who had so many ideas and I liked starting, but I never followed through and I never like finished them, quote unquote. But when I finally was like, you know what, I'm just gonna do this and we'll see what happens. And from there, things just kind of moved along uh, well, alhamdulillah. So yeah, really just do what you can, what you have.
Yeah, I mean, beautiful example there as well, and very, very good advice. Very, very good piece of advice because I can definitely relate to that. And in that same book, I do mention, the book Lessons from Depression. I do talk about that as well. That
Yeah.
I was a perfectionist. I definitely was. It was just
Hmm.
everything had to look nice, had to be great before I did anything. But perfectionism doesn't take you far sometimes because it's that self-destructive element of you that just keeps you where you're comfortable, and it just wants you to be from being comfortable to the next comfort as well without hustling, right? It's just no,
Mm,
you don't do the next steps until everything is there ready. But that's not how life is. um because
yeah.
if you think about it, you talked about your son just now, your child. If you think about, having a child, you don't just have the grown up, adult who's perfect. You have to raise
Yeah. They go through a process. Yeah.
exactly. There's a whole process.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying this conversation, Yasin.
Me too. Me too.
So we all see emotional intelligence as, one of the key infrastructures of, development. It's a
Mm,
main infrastructure, actually. I mean, societies just cannot function without it, right?
yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
fundamental element. So
Mm,
let's now talk about, briefly the mission, values, and impact of Afia EQ. Um, could you please give us a brief overview, Yasin?
yeah, for sure. So I had to really write this down. I have it, of course,
Yeah.
somewhere, but I was thinking about it again,
Okay.
having the opportunity to like, be in this podcast.
Yeah.
Um, so I have a vision. I have a vision for Afia EQ, which to me is so grand that sometimes, not that I have trouble putting it in words, but I want it to be ever evolving in the sense that emotional intelligence is a tool that I use, but the vision that I have is really to create societies where individuals and the community participate in each other's well-being so that we can build more cohesive societies where people live consciously, they live with depth, with meaning and connection. So I feel like that vision is very grand, like it's
Yeah.
very bold, but that is ultimately what I aim for through Afia EQ. And the mission specifically for that is to facilitate spaces and different activities around emotional intelligence that can bring those together. So whether it's individuals or groups, to really make them more aware of their emotional intelligence and their capacities in that sense so that they can build each other. So I do that through workshops that I create. I do that through also coaching. I've started coaching recently individually. I do that through creating how do you call that again? Personalized programs. Like when I work with businesses, I want to create like a program that they would go through, not just do one workshop, because I think it's something that you have to really build over time as well.
Indeed.
I do, yeah, I do want to eventually even do retreats, Afia EQ retreats. I think those would be amazing. And also like specific type of workshops and trainings. For example, emotional intelligence workshops for families, parents with children, couples in marriage, colleagues, like because it's a different dynamic with all those things. So I think it's relevant as well to bring a particular lens with those things. And when it comes to the values, Afia EQ's values, I think I've kind of, mentioned them. But really, wellness is a really big one, and wellness, holistic wellness for individuals and communities, um, depth and meaning in everything that we do as a society. I would say also just having like conscious led society, because I want to encourage people to live a conscious life. That means that whatever they do is done with intention. We're not just going through life, flowing through things, not understanding why we're doing this, or why we think the way that we do, but we're consciously thinking about who we are, what we're doing, and what type of life we're leading, and if it really contributes to our wellness, but also contributes to our community's wellness. And I think those two go together anyways. Like, individuals need to feel empowered. They need to feel mentally, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually healthy, quote unquote, so that they can contribute to their community, and so then the community can flourish. So I think those feed off of each other. And culture, of course, culture and wisdom, African wisdom is a huge value as well of Afia EQ.
I think we gathered that's definitely part of Afia EQ. Um,
Yeah.
these are great plans and great activities that you've undertaken.
Hmm.
I really make sure that Afia EQ's details is on the description so that anyone who's listening could just get in touch with you because I know that um,
Mm.
everything that you do comes really from that deep passion for you to give back to society, and
Mm.
that's something that's really, really good to have. And I think you are an asset to our country and to the
Thank
world.
you. Thank you. I hope I try to be. Oh, and Zainab, I forgot to mention one of the projects for AFIAQ, but I think it's like a common project that we have is
Yeah,
to create that organization, right? That
yeah,
we don't have that in Guinea, for all the professionals that work in like the wellness industry. I think that would be amazing to create that as well.
exactly. So Yasin just shared that with you. Something is definitely cooking on this side.
Yeah.
So watch out and
Mm,
watch this space, and you see what we're going to show you soon. Um,
yeah.
thank you, Yasin. I can't wait for us to share that special um, organization that we're creating.
I'm really excited. Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
So we are almost there, but
Hmm.
2 steps to go.
Yeah.
So now, what does emotional intelligence mean to you? I know you've touched upon it a lot, but on a
Hmm.
personal level, if I asked you, to just define it in terms of, your own lived experience, what does it
Hmm.
mean to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Emotional intelligence to me means the ability to be aware, to be deeply aware of your emotions and therefore your emotional state, and to go through that process of understanding it, accepting it, and regulating it so that you can nurture your internal well-being, and then also nurture um, thriving relationships with others in your lives, whether that's your spouse, your friends, your family, your extended family, your colleagues, really really anyone. So I think it's really foundational for humans to become very not only acquainted with their emotions, but just very comfortable and very familiar, because emotions are not good or bad. Emotions are there. They're an experience that you go through as a human, and denying them, suppressing them, which is sometimes what we're what we're taught through, education, or depending on our culture, doing those things will not make them go away. And they're not supposed to go away because they're important. They're data, and they're really actually guides, they're guides. And so emotions should always be taken into consideration. If you go through something, and it doesn't have to be anything traumatic or difficult, because you feel emotions all throughout the day, but if something happens and you sense some type of feeling, which then becomes, an emotion, the best thing to do is really to acknowledge it. Okay, right now I'm feeling stressed. Right now I'm feeling, angry. You acknowledge it to yourself. You don't have to say it out loud. And once you do that, you look at ways to understand it. Okay, why am I feeling this way? Is this because of maybe something that happened in my childhood? Is this because it's triggering something in me that I haven't fully accepted yet? And most of the time, emotions come from you. No one else can make you feel an emotion. Not to say that people can't do wrong, but essentially the emotion that comes from that, so the result that comes from that, is deeply related to you and to your story. And the best thing you can do in that moment, instead of focusing on this other person did something to me, or they mistreated me, or they disrespected me, the best thing you can do for yourself is really to focus on how am I feeling and why am I feeling this way, because that's how you can essentially feel better eventually, to be
Yeah.
realistic, right?
Yeah.
And so once you acknowledge the emotion, you accept it, you try and understand it, even if you don't fully analyze it at that point. And then you're better equipped to regulate it. So regulating it can go through different things. You have like I would say immediate regulating processes that you can use, such as, breathing slowly, going for a walk, moving around, just kind of getting out of the mental heaviness that you're in, and actually moving your body, because emotions are actually mainly physiologic, not just how would I say, it's not psychologically happening only, it's happening to your body. So the best thing you can do is actually move, get up, move around, look at the sky, go for a walk. That's something that can help you immediately feel better. And then you have kind of long-term things that you can do to help you regulate your emotions, such as, journaling. We hear that a lot, but it does really help. Of course, prayer, doing that on a regular basis as well, and many, many other things. So there are emotional regulation techniques that you can learn, and you can find the ones that feel the most natural to you. You don't have to start journaling if you don't like writing. There's other things that you can do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you just like kind of allow yourself to go through that process, and you'll see that slowly but surely with time you'll become more and more aware of your emotions, more and more accepting of them. And accepting them doesn't mean that you react from them. Actually, it actually means that you are better equipped to decide how you're going to act um, from that emotion. So it's really, really powerful. And I feel like it brings you a lot of peace. It gives you a lot of, how would I say, it just allows you to also let go of a lot of pressure, individually and, towards others. And yeah, it's really just essential for you to be a more stable and secure individual in your life. And therefore, that's the type of influence that you'll have with others. And imagine if everybody becomes like that. Everybody's more secure, everybody's more stable, everybody's more like, doesn't mean that you're always happy, you're always chill, but you have, the ability of, getting back to that level-headedness, right? You're not always like reacting from your emotions. You can do that yourself.
Yeah.
You can do that yourself, and that's very empowering.
Yeah, indeed. And thank you so much for sharing that because, I
Yeah.
mean, if everyone did that, we would be more understanding of each other, more patient,
Absolutely.
more, I think, humanizing the whole process, basically remembering that we are here and that we are full of vulnerabilities and that they're not necessarily weaknesses that we have, but that we can turn those vulnerabilities
Mm,
into things that would help us to go through life in a very positive and mindful way. Um,
yeah.
and I like when you added the point about, actually self-reflection and being able to acknowledge emotions and work through them because that's what you can control. You cannot control other
Hmm.
people's emotions. You can't try as you may,
Yeah.
even if you're children, you can only help them self-regulate. You cannot regulate them. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Because if you try to do that, you suppress their emotions. And as you said, they will overflow at some point anyway, because you can't suppress them. And those
Yeah.
emotions, they're there to be acknowledged. They're there to
Yeah.
be, they're reminders, that
Hmm.
perhaps you are tired, perhaps you are angry, perhaps you are hungry, even, perhaps, those, you out there trying to pretend, perhaps your emotions
Mm.
are bringing you back to, hello, just be more human. No, we
Yeah.
reached our limit here. Come back.
Yeah.
And we don't always listen to ourselves, and because we don't always listen to ourselves, we end up, sometimes choosing anger, which is an emotion
Mm.
that's very visible, that's very audible, people actually see
Hmm.
it out there, whereas that can mean so many things, that can mean so many negative, experiences that have not been dealt with, or positive
Hmm.
emotions that were suppressed, like you're
Yeah.
supposed to be happy today, but then you decide, okay, no. and and then
Yeah.
so many different, emotions there. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and you become a slave to your emotions if you're just reacting to them,
exactly.
right? Whereas if you acknowledge them, accept them, go through the process of understanding them and regulate them,
Yeah,
they become like basically you're the master,
yeah,
and the emotions are there to serve you, which is what they're supposed to do because
exactly.
you
Not
are
the
the master
you
of your
are.
being, in that sense, right?
Yeah,
They're not supposed to be they're not supposed to be the ones who control you. You're supposed to be the one who manage them. I don't want to
yeah.
say control them, but
No,
manage
exactly.
them.
Because you're supposed to be in charge. You're supposed to
Exactly.
know what you feel and and deal with them correctly. And I
Mhm.
like the tools that you shared as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Lessons from Depression is all about those different tools that we can use. And
Yeah.
the key thing there is about bespoke tools,
Mhm.
bespoke techniques to be used. Which
Yeah.
brings us nicely to the topic of, mental health. Or opportunities and challenges in Guinea. So because many people, including me, view Guinea as a fertile ground for innovation, not just mere limitations, but
Mhm.
I guess others only see limitations and
Mhm.
respect their perspectives because they are based on their own lived experience, right? Um,
Yeah.
but with that said, that being said, let's now conduct a reality check and discuss, challenges and opportunities.
Yeah.
In terms of challenges, working in the field of emotional intelligence could mean, having to face mental health stigma, institutional resistance. There's a lot of that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Uh, Misunderstanding of what EQ is all about, like maybe it's, taking you towards someone who's being very soft as opposed to, I don't want to be
Mhm.
soft. And then,
Yeah.
the funding issues and,
Mm.
sustainability. Is this your experience or did you have, a different experience?
I have a mixed experience. A lot of people have actually been very positive overall when hearing about Afiyah EQ and coming to my workshops because there's an underlying need in Guinea that's very, very present, whether people acknowledge it or not, is that people just need to talk about their emotions and
Yeah,
the things that they go through.
yeah,
And when they hear that emotional intelligence, even though it's not just that, they're like, okay, this is an opportunity or a space where I can actually open up and maybe feel a little bit of relief,
Yeah.
because a lot of people are keeping a lot of things in, things that they've gone through for years, or things that happened years ago that they've never processed. And obviously, this is all humans, it's not just in Guinea, but I think there are certain things in the culture here that doesn't really the culture, or some family cultures to be specific, that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't encourage people to open up, to share, to actually process the different things that happen in their life. And so some people learn to do it, I guess, and some others just kind of go through, the programming that they've had, and so they just keep suppressing and suppressing and suppressing. And as you mentioned earlier, emotions, they don't go away. You can try and suppress them all that you want, whether it's consciously or unconsciously, but they essentially, they're an energy. We say that emotion is an energy in movement.
Mm-hmm.
So if the energy doesn't come out one way, it comes out another, because
Yeah,
it has
it
to
will come
like
up.
circulate.
Yeah.
Exactly. So often, you can develop certain types of sicknesses because you've never processed, some experiences that you've gone through. So there's a lot of that. And so I can see it in people's eyes when I exchange with them, when I say like emotional intelligence, it's already like, oh, this is something different, first of all. And second of all, maybe this is something that actually can help me. So I have a lot of those encounters, but also because it is new, because it's less familiar, and because it's elusive, as you said, like you don't exactly know what it means, even though you hear emotional intelligence, you can see that people, they don't fully commit to it. Like they'll be like, oh yeah, that's interesting, that's something that can potentially help Guinea, but you don't see them make the step to actually like sign up for a workshop, or you know go further in that exploration. And I think institutionally, I mean, here again, I've exchanged with like different businesses that are interested in it, but again, it's been theoretical. I haven't seen, even if I follow up, they don't make it a priority like other things, right? Like, I don't know, doing some type of training on finances or leadership, or which, funny enough, for example, leadership is something you have to develop through emotional intelligence, right? So I
Yeah.
think that there's certain keywords here that people hear often, and they feel like those things are more important, and they don't realize how crucial emotional intelligence is in every way, in every context possible. So, I do, I guess, have those challenges, but I think it's just a matter of time, a matter of people being more familiar with it, a matter of people seeing more results.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually, it will open up. So I'm not too worried about those.
No, no. Actually, it's good that you're there because you'll
Yeah.
be working on actually helping people realize that hello, we need to put it back into the forefront of every agenda that we have because we
Mm,
can't function without emotional intelligence. But also,
yeah.
yeah, in terms of challenges there, as you specifically said, it's not just everyone. It's not everyone. It's there are
Mm,
some family cultures. Some families where opening up, is not really encouraged. Like men shouldn't cry. Women
hmm.
should always remain patient, even if they're enduring the worst things
Yeah.
within their marriages. It's just keep quiet, be patient, be obedient. It's fine, just keep going. But things
Yeah.
are changing, and I'm glad they are
Yeah.
in the right direction.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah,
There are some changes. You can see there's a lot of things like brewing in the background in Guinea.
yeah, yeah. Let's
Yeah.
keep cooking.
Yes. For
And
sure.
then the other side obviously is opportunities. Yeah, they are endless and
Mm.
they can include, youth openness, the opposite here. And
Mm.
this is important because, young people are the future, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. And then there's the, diaspora bridges, like what we are doing, you and I, and many other
Yeah.
people from the diaspora, cultural legitimacy, growing needs for emotional literacy, technology, tradition, social innovation, all that. Um,
Mm.
What are 2 or 3 opportunities that you've identified, please, Yacine?
2 or 3 opportunities. Well, I guess the main thing, as I said before, just people needing spaces to open up, to share. Um, that's like one of the main opportunities, especially with young people, because young people, they're much more aware of it, or they're much more ready to admit that they have that need to talk about their emotions, to talk about, certain things that they've been suppressing or keeping, or have a hard time like processing and understanding. So that's a huge opportunity with the youth. And I would say other opportunities are really just a matter of creating them. I see them everywhere when it comes to emotional intelligence. As I mentioned, like I want to create workshops that are tailored to specific situations. I want to do emotional intelligence workshop for couples, for, obviously schools and the youth, for teenagers. Teenagers go through a lot of emotional turmoil. um,
Yeah.
but also a lot of businesses, corporate businesses and stuff are interested in it. I think it's just a matter of like really pushing them to take that step, because they have a hard time right now putting it as a top priority. But I do think there's a big interest in that as well. So I see more opportunities overall than challenges anyways. Or actually they go together, but that's what makes it interesting.
Amazing. I like that
Yeah.
you're very optimistic, and that's great.
Yeah. Yeah, have to.
Yeah. And like now, quick fire questions, please, for you, Yasin.
Okay.
1 word to describe emotional intelligence.
One word.
Yeah,
Self-awareness, which is technically the first element of emotional intelligence, but I'll still use it because to me that's like the basis of everything else. So self-awareness.
great. Great, good answer. A childhood lesson you still carry.
A childhood lesson. I think my journey of having deep self-esteem issues is like my biggest lesson as a child, as a teen, because I've learned that through that you must nurture a deep friendship, with yourself first and foremost, and that needs to be something that you advocate for throughout your life. The moment you neglect yourself in that sense, then it affects all of the things that happen in your life. And yeah, that's like the worst thing. So just nurturing a deep friendship and connection with yourself.
That's great. Good thing,
Mm.
big thing to remember.
Mm.
Thanks. A book or proverb that grounds you.
Um, so one proverb that I really like, and I use it a lot in my workshops. So in French is, what is it again? Quand l'ennemi. Let me try and remember.
Okay.
Basically, I'll just translate directly, but essentially it says something along the lines that when you don't have an enemy inside of you, then the enemy outside of you cannot reach you. And I think that's very powerful individually and as a community to remember, again, to nurture that deep connection within yourself, that deep love. And as when you have that, when you recognize your value, your inherent value as a person and as a community, then all of the things that come from that can only be from a place of goodness, a place of love. So I love that proverb.
I love it too. That's a very
Yeah.
powerful one. Thanks for sharing. What drains your emotional energy?
Drains my
Mm,
emotional energy when I try to overanalyze, which is something that I've done a lot throughout my life, just overanalyze, why am I thinking this way? Why am I doing this? Why is this person doing this? Why is this person not doing that? When I get into that mode, it really drains me emotionally. So I've learned to really take a step back and be like, you know what? I don't understand this right now, and it's okay. And it doesn't have to all make sense. Maybe it will eventually make sense. And so I've learned to let go a lot of like expectations towards other people, and also just putting a lot of pressure on myself.
that's great. That's
Mm.
Yeah, that was your perfectionist side that was draining you. Now you're back to just accepting yourself as who you
Yeah,
are. Amazing.
it's easier.
It is easier, right? Why complicate life? Why?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
One thing that Guinea needs emotionally, please.
One thing that Guinea needs emotionally. I believe that Guinea needs to need to acknowledge like the a lot of emotional trauma that exists within families, within different communities in Guinea that are probably driving a lot of negative behaviors. Um, yeah, and if we don't go back to those things and really try to tackle them and process them, I think those behaviors, I'm not going to get into all of those, are going to continue on and they're really going to be toxic for our families, for our society. So we really need to acknowledge a lot of the emotional trauma that many people have gone through and that they actually need to process.
Yeah, I think that's a good point because there are many historical events and many yeah, collective memories that need to be really um
Yeah.
reassessed or not maybe just managed and talked about and as a nation. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. And this is
Thank
really the
you.
end now.
It's
We're
already
finished,
done.
right? Yeah.
This
If
was great.
listeners were, to remember you for only one thing from this conversation, what should it be, Yasin?
Um, Again, to really nurture that deep connection to yourself, because I believe that it all starts there. If you're, you know how they say like, um, goodness brings goodness, and doing bad brings bad things, or something along those lines. But
Yeah.
essentially, if you nurture that goodness within you, I believe you can only be a positive a positive influence and a positive actor within your community. And we all need individuals to be good, to be well, to be healthy in a holistic way, so that they can also pour into their families, their communities, and the society overall. So just make sure you're good. That
Yeah.
would be the one
Yeah.
thing I want
Yasin
people
just
to
said it. Make
remember.
sure you're good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's, having that positive outlook in life and just trying to be optimistic, bringing positive energy, and,
Mm-hmm.
that's beautiful. Even, but we're not saying that you should always have that positive energy because we recognize that
Mm-mm.
you're a human being
Yeah,
that does.
it's complex. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yasin, thank you so much for this.
Thank you, Zainab.
I've really enjoyed this.
Me too. It was lovely. I could talk about this and with you specifically for like hours. So this was great. Thank you
Thank
so much
you.
for having me.
Thank you so much for this rich, honest, and inspiring conversation. What really stands out for me is a reminder that emotional intelligence is not a luxury; it's a foundation for leadership, community
Mm,
resilience, and sustainable development. And we talked a lot about vulnerability today and the
mm.
idea of hope. So, everyone listening, if this episode resonated with you, I invite you to reflect on how emotional balance shows up in your own life, your work, and your community. You can connect with Yasin and learn more about Afiyah EQ through the links in the show notes. So I'll make sure that they're included in the description so you don't miss that. And I'm sure that Yasin will add a lot of value to your life and your organization. Trust me. And if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to share it, subscribe, and continue the conversation. This has been development one topic at a time because change happens when we slow down and engage deeply, as Yasin mentioned, one topic at a time. Development one topic at a time, making the world a better place, one topic at a time. Goodbye.
Bye bye.